everybody. Today's little spill is on working steep ground on an excavator and keeping your cool. When you first start operating an excavator, or you've been out of it for a while and you're just getting back into it, getting on steep ground can be one of the toughest parts of running one of these machines. And really, if you can get a few jobs in before you have to go on steep ground, but the main thing is getting familiar with the balance of your particular machine, its tipping points, and where it is the most comfortable. With this machine, before I added the 800-pound additional counterweight on the back end, it was pretty tipsy toward the boom side, or the front side, depending on how you want to look at it. And I'm going to try, as I swing and work this ground, I'm going to try to keep my head level with, well, level, not the ground. So give you guys an idea of, as I turn the machine, what kind of slope I'm on. And you can see right there, see, machine can't even brake really. So what I'm going to have to do is, when you've got the boom way out like that and you don't have the power to swing back, you want to pivot uphill, but at the same time you want to pull the forearm of the machine towards you, and that'll get the weight towards you. See how I'm picking speed up? And that gets that weight back towards you, and you get back into control. So don't panic just because you've reached out and then you try to swing back and it won't move because you're on such steep ground. So, and I'll keep saying it over and over as I do this little spiel, that you don't want to panic. You know, you're stable. Even if you don't have an additional counterweight, it takes a lot to turn one of these things over. You have to do something pretty extreme. And the heavier the machine you're in, typically the more stable you are. But now, like, the Yanmar 55 is beautifully balanced. I know David Shields, he's probably happy with his. I'm sorry about the glare. I know it's just hard for you guys to hear me, especially since we're mulching and not digging. But when you first start getting on steep ground, you know, you're going to get more and more comfortable naturally, and eventually you're just going to get to where you can fly around on these slopes. Straight up the hill is here. I've got my tracks turned that way, so I point my boom straight uphill and it traverses easily. And you can be on a really steep slope and you can just zigzag back and forth. A prime example, you know, you think cattle are not smart animals. They'll just stand there and let a coyote eat them for the most part. But you notice that their trails don't go straight up and down the hills. They zigzag back and forth. And that's just because it's a lot easier and it takes less energy for them to work their way up the hill. So you can take that same principle and apply that to your machinery operating. Now this slope here, there's probably not much any skid steer would climb it unless it had, you know, cleated tracks. And I like zigzagging, and you can get yourself in position. Just lift this up. I'm gonna lean my seat up to work. I was working downhill, so I had my seat leaned back. Once you get yourself established, like I don't even have the blade down right now. I'm that stable. And you can just swing back and forth. As long as you're pointing mostly uphill, you can work and swing. Once you get past a certain point though, it gets difficult to swing. And if you get to that point, just pull this thing back toward you. Oh, looks like I made a yellow jacket, man. Sorry. Y'all gonna have to deal with the glare for a minute until I get past this nest. They usually don't come in here and bother me. I don't want to push my luck though. See, like right there's that tipping point. So if it's struggling to go back, don't just keep pressing on. Just pull that boom back towards you, and away you'll go. So our stake is actually over there on the other side of that marker. Now the other thing I'll do is I keep one track in the rough a lot of the time if I'm working my way uphill, and I also don't mulch it all the way down to the ground. I leave enough stems and root matting that I don't just destroy this hillside, because if it just comes out all of a sudden heavy rain, you can start getting mudslides and stuff. So you want to leave enough stuff to break the water flows. And that's another reason I'm not digging my blade in. Let's see if I can just get swung around here. Now when you're first getting into this, just swing slow and smooth. Now you don't want to get around against a tree, so lift that boom up. Your nature is to want to keep that boom low to the ground, but when you keep that head low to the ground, your weight goes out. And believe me, if you're swinging fast and you start to tip over, just start dropping your boom down. But you can see how stable we are. Right there's ground, right here's level. So you look down, right there's my blade. See, I can bounce that boom, and this thing wants to kind of bounce, but it won't tip. You know, we're pretty solid all around here. So take your time and just get used to your machine, or the machine you're using. See, now I'm using this, it's not going anywhere, so pull back, lift up, and it'll eventually start to move. You just gotta start getting all your weight back towards you. When you're on that steep of a slope, you just gotta do it. Now another thing with these mulching heads, if it's trying to spool up, it's also weaker. So you gotta let the head spool up, find your movement point, go a little past it, reach out, and get to work. And this is all stuff that you could and would learn on your own, and a lot of it's common sense. But I figure if I can make these videos and help save people some time, that's what I'll do. Now another hint, if you see ferns, the area stays pretty damp. Now I gotta let that head die down so I can lift myself up and spin a little bit, because I don't really want to keep going too much in this direction just yet. Right there's our corner, or property line marker. So I see another one up through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect myself and start shooting straight up through there, get a path cleared, and then we can now what I did right there was I pushed down on the ground and lifted my weight up a little, and then just whichever way I want to twist, I push both pedals the same amount, and I swing the boom the opposite way I want to turn the tracks. Now another thing, if you reach this boom way up here, just a lot of your weight's going to go onto those cleats, especially if you're not too steep. So what you want to do is pull this sucker back. You're not going to flip over backwards. Just start trucking. I don't think we'll have too bad of a glare here. So yeah, you just take your time. Now you can dig that blade in if it's an area that they're going to end up seeding or doing something with right away. But make sure if you dig that blade in back there that you start driving backwards as you lift up on that blade, and that way it doesn't flip that big old chunk of dirt out and disturb the ground. That's how I do it anyway. You know, you guys will develop your own ways and what you're comfortable with. And as a general rule, when you're starting this, you are the most stable and it'll move the easiest if you just move side to side about a foot past your tracks. So I lift that up so my ground weight is even on my tracks and you get more traction. Just like that, you can see we're moving without any problem. Now as soon as I let off of one and I held another one, see, it's not going to move if you just do one. You got to do them both. And if those tracks slip a little and tears the ground up, you're going to have to reach out and use the boom to move yourself. Because you've tore the ground up and you got down to bare ground and you filled your cleats up also with debris, dirt. And it's hard to get going, which I'll probably get to demonstrate here in just a second. Our stuff's way down there, and I know it's hard to see on camera. This doesn't look steep at all because I'm sitting and a lot of times I'm facing with the ground level, but if I tilt my head, I'm looking straight at the ground. That's great. So some pretty steep ground work in here. And these things really, even though I've slipped the tracks and I've got very little traction, I'm not sliding down the hill even with all these movements. See, I'm just bouncing. A little bit of slippage right there. So let's see if we can get going again. See, we're just moving right along. The machine, you got to have faith in it. Otherwise, you don't need to be in it. Let your head get plenty of speed up before you go into bigger stuff. These little mini excavators, you can put them anywhere once you get comfortable. Don't do anything that you're just not comfortable with. Work up to it. Don't take jobs that, you know, you look at and you think, oh God, or if it looks scary to you. And if you're just starving to death and you have to take the job, just take your time. Excavator is one of the hardest things that man has made to get stuck. If you get stuck, it is something you did. So these machines are designed for this stuff. So I need to go back downhill a little bit. I know that glare is terrible right now, but can't really talk and whatever. You guys can fast forward to the just work parts if you're not interested in what this hillbilly's got to say. Now you can see how well balanced these things are. I can turn sideways. Right there's great. See, it's just walking right along. I can put my blade down just a touch. If it was trying to slide, but you can see this thing's not wanting to move now. You can use that blade to level yourself. If you've just got something like that little sapling there that you just got to get it, and there's no other direction to get it from. That's about all there is to going uphill. I'm going to turn the camera off and and I'll start back up when I start back down the hill, and I'll go over some fundamentals with you on that. Congratulations, you've made it up to the top of this slope as far as you can get, or you've reached where they want you to get to. Now, if this is your first time, this is probably going to make you nervous or scared to death or whatever, but you know, you just swing around just like that. Okay, so level is straight out through there. We're looking downhill. Now, recline your seat back, and that's why these pedals here have pads so you can push yourself back, but I tend, when it's steep like this, put my feet right there, and that way you're kind of pushing straight up against gravity. Now here's where you test out just how much tip you've got. Raise your boom all the way up, and you pull the forearm, I call it, all the way in. Now start backing up pressure. You can hear the beeper, start lifting your blade up. Okay, you're sitting there, you're not sliding anywhere. Now you can see I tore the ground up a little bit. That's okay. Now if we get to a spot and I start feeling sliding, I'm not going to just stop. I'm going to start slowing down on the controls, because if you just stop, you're going to slide, and that's when you're out of control. As long as you have movement and you've got the controls, you're in control. So let's just start easing down through here. Now another thing you can do, idle all the way down, and you're just going to glide along. Worst case scenario, now let me just make it clear, these are rubber tracks. They tend to do, I think, better on soft ground like this. If you're in a steel track machine and you run up on rock, you're going for a ride. So there's no denying that. And the best thing you can do is just hang on, and eventually you'll slide to a stop. So just ease down through here, and I keep my hand on this control, and I can see kind of plowing dirt a little bit. So I'm just going to keep on going, and I hover that blade just above the ground. That way, if for some reason it does start to tilt, that's as far as you're going to go. Just keep that boom up and just ease along at a speed you're comfortable at. This is not a rat race. Now just ease up on the control where you want to turn. Now you can stop here. Now watch. No sliding, no tipping over, nothing like that. What I am going to do, see, we've disturbed the ground enough to where we are starting to slip just a little. I'm going to put my blade down till I feel pressure right there. And initially, when that blade hits the ground, you're going to feel a little slide because it lifts pressure off your tracks. That's okay, because it's only going to slide far enough for that blade to bite in, and then you're solid. So what I do then is I'm going to spool up the head, and I'm just going to lightly start over here. Now I'm going to skim the ground. Now you can see that I threw debris into my tracks. I'm doing that to help stop any erosion that might occur. And I'm also knocking those high sides down that will funnel water. It is a little hard on the teeth. And you can back downhill, just real easy. Stop. Plant your blade, it's real predictable. And you don't have to do a lot, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, all we're doing is mowing brush. If we wanted perfect, we would bring a bulldozer. Now you see, here's the mountainside, that's level. So we got a pretty good little slope going here. Let's just spin on around. And you can see our blades, guys. We're going to kill the head in case we have to dig it in for some reason. put this down. Now as I start backing up, I'm going to lift that blade up at the same time. See how it just leaves a little line? Now we're just going to ease on down. And I'm going to gradually turn. See us tipping? Now in general, when you're going down a steep slope that's consistent, if you hit a little bump, this thing will feel like it's just going to tip and just flip over, and it's not. What it's going to do is it's just going to kind of bounce along. Because what happens is when you get to a high spot, your tracks are straight, but you got that high spot, and all you're doing is teetering. You're going up, teetering over, and that's why I say it's best just to, you know, idle down and just slowly track along at a steady pace. And the reason it'll scare you when you've got, you know, your tracks and you've got that rounded corner, when you start to teeter and you get scared and you stop, it throws you down harder as opposed to just floating. So it's something you're going to learn and something you're going to get better at, and you're going to naturally get more comfortable. Now watch how this does. Let me see if I can get up here without falling out. Okay, now watch how I'm not doing anything. I'm not holding these controls, but I'm just going to put pressure down on that blade, and you'll see that when it first lifts weight off of the tracks and I feel it start to slide, I stop. I don't keep pressing that blade in, because that's when you're going to dig too deep. You'll see it dig in on its own. It was only maybe 2 or 3 inch slide, but now that thing is bit in and you're solid. You're not going anywhere. So you back up and lift at the same time. Track along. And see, like, even though we're bouncing, eventually that bouncing will flatten that spot out. So, see there? Our rear end is up in the air. So that's where you just barely put it down until you feel level. And you feel that little slide. Now you can see there's no tipping. We can spin all the way around. I can feel my weight shift back uphill. You can swing as fast as you want. You're safe here. You know, once you've established that blade's just bit in, so your tracks are flat on the ground, you've got a blade about that deep in the ground, you're on a steady work platform. You're just as safe right here. Once you've established these couple little rules, you're just as safe right here as you are on perfectly flat ground. You're not going anywhere. You'll be fine. So hopefully this little video about working on steep ground helps you guys. If you have any questions, or if you've had an experience where you've had a machine turn over, share it in the comments and explain what happened and what you could have done to prevent it. So you guys like, comment, and it'd humble me greatly if you'd subscribe. Y'all have a great day.